Midnight has fallen, the winds are rising, and tonight, the Midnight Files, When Nature Strikes, takes you deep into one of the most destructive hurricanes to ever strike American soil. This is a storm so fierce, so unforgiving, it changed the way we prepare for natural disasters. This is the story of Hurricane Andrew, Category 5 chaos, Florida in ruins, and the resilience born from the rubble. On August 14, 1992, a tropical wave left the coast of West Africa, crossing the warm waters of the Atlantic Ocean. At first, it was unremarkable, a disorganized cluster of thunderstorms with no defined center. But as the days passed, something began to form. By August 17th, the system had organized enough to be named Tropical Storm Andrew by the National Hurricane Center. But few suspected what it would become in the future. Initially, Andrew struggled. Wind shear in the upper atmosphere kept the storm disorganized. In fact, some meteorologists speculated Andrew might just fizzle out. But by August 21st, everything had changed. The wind shear had weakened, and the ocean waters were warm, perfect conditions for intensification. And Andrew didn't just grow, it exploded. Within 36 hours, Andrew became a Category 5 hurricane, one of the fastest intensifications ever recorded at the time. Meteorologist Paul Hebert, working at the National Hurricane Center, would say, "It was a nightmare scenario, a compact, fast-moving, high-intensity storm heading straight for the heart of South Florida." As Andrew barreled through the Bahamas, destroying hundreds of homes and claiming lives, it set its sights on South Florida. On August 23rd, the National Hurricane Center issued hurricane warnings for Florida Keys. It was a Sunday. Many were caught off guard. Evacuation orders were issued, but not everyone left. Some underestimated the storm's power and decided to stick it out. Others simply had nowhere else to go. Supermarkets were stripped bare. Gas stations ran dry. People boarded up windows and filled bathtubs with water. Tension hung in the air like static. And then, pure darkness. At 4:40 a.m. on Monday, August 24th, 1992, Hurricane Andrew made landfall at Elliott Key before roaring into Homestead, Florida with full fury. Winds were sustained at 165 miles per hour, with gusts reportedly surpassing 175 miles per hour. Andrew wasn't compact, only about 30 miles across, but devastatingly focused, a buzzsaw of wind and destruction. Entire subdivisions were flattened. In some neighborhoods, only concrete slabs remained where homes once stood. Schools, businesses, hospitals, nothing was spared. At Homestead Air Force Base, aircrafts were tossed like toys, and hangars collapsed, and operations ground to a halt. The base was later described as a total loss. The roof was gone, the walls were cracking, people huddled in a closet, and you could hear it, just like a train, like a scream, but worse, and you could feel the pressure in your chest. Electrical transformers exploded into the sky, glass shattered everywhere, palm trees bent horizontally. The night was a blur of screaming wind and flying debris. By dawn, the destruction was biblical. Morning revealed a landscape unlike anything Florida has ever seen. Over 175,000 people were left homeless. Nearly 1.4 million people lost power, some for weeks. 25,000 homes were completely destroyed, and over 100,000 suffered major damage. Some entire neighborhoods in Homestead, Cutler Ridge, and Kendall looked like war zones. Looting broke out in the hardest hit areas, prompting a swift response from the National Guard. Governor Lawton Chiles called it a full-scale emergency, unlike any in the state's history. President George H.W. Bush visited the scene, walking through the wreckage, embracing the stunned families. But federal response was initially sluggish, and many survivors reported waiting days for food, water, and medical aid. In the words of one shaken resident, "We survived the hurricane, but not the days after." That's when the real suffering had begun. The human stories from Andrew are haunting, heroic, and unforgettable. There's the father in Homestead who shielded his children with his own body as the roof tore away. The woman who clung to her bathtub as her house collapsed around her. The community groups that cooked meals with propane stoves to feed entire blocks. First responders risked their lives to rescue the trapped. Doctors set up makeshift clinics in school gyms. Churches became shelters. Out of destruction came connection. Out of isolation came unity. Hurricane Andrew wasn't just a storm, it was a reckoning. It revealed how vulnerable modern cities were to a high-category storm. In response, Florida rewrote its building codes, enforcing stricter wide resistance requirements, especially in high-risk zones like Miami-Dade and Broward County. The insurance industry was rocked. 11 insurance companies went bankrupt and thousands lost their coverage. It led to the creation of Citizens Property Insurance Corporation, a state-backed insurer of last resort. In meteorology, Andrew became a textbook example of rapid intensification, pushing forecasters to improve satellite analysis, data modeling, and early warning systems. Though Andrew struck over 30 years ago, its memory still lingers today. For those who lived through it, no thunderstorm sounds the same. No summer breeze feels quite right. Communities rebuilt. Homestead Air Force Base was reconstructed and reopened as a reserve facility. Families rebuilt homes, stronger this time. But the scars will always remain. Andrew was a warning, one the country would remember when Katrina, Irma, Harvey, and others came calling. It taught us that preparation is survival, that storms don't just destroy buildings, they destroy humanity. Tonight we remember the night that Florida was flattened, the night the wind screamed and the walls gave way. We remember the loss, the fear, and the silence after the storm. But we also remember the resilience and the survival and the rise. Thank you for listening to the Midnight Files When Nature Strikes. Be sure to explore our other episodes. Tales of tornadoes that leveled towns, hurricanes that drowned cities, and survivors who refuse to be broken. And as always, stay alert and stay safe. And remember that when nature strikes, it doesn't ask for permission. Thanks for watching. Good night.